The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here's Brandon.
And I welcome you to another week here at the Brandon Peters Show. This episode you've selected features a discussion of the 1998 film Almost Heroes. That discussion is with my guest returning to the show. He once went on a bender at the Bon Parisian feeding pigeons with Kevin on Earth. It's Pres Maxson.
Oh man, thanks for such a warm welcome and for plugging my books. I don't know if anyone noticed, but you slipped a few book titles in that intro.
It might have been. Might have been. Show regulars hopefully got it. Both of them.
Well, thanks for having me, and hello to the two regulars. I am so excited, honestly. I'm so excited to talk about this movie. The context here is that I mentioned this to you, right? Like a few weeks, months. I don't even remember how long.
On the show.
Oh, was it on the show? So months and months ago, I was like, if you ever want to talk about this movie, you give me a call. And when that call came, oh yeah, I'm ready.
I don't fake out my listeners. You put it there. We talked about it off air, and then you mentioned it when you were signing off the last time you were on. So I was like, all right. But what's been up with you lately?
I'm glad you asked. I've been working on my next book, and I haven't really announced it formally, but I'm just gonna spill the beans. I think it's out on April 5th.
Okay.
Title I have also not announced formally, but might as well say it's called The Bastards of the Revolution. Bastards of the Revolution.
Okay.
And really excited about it. It's been written for 2 years, but we've been searching for a publisher for it and looking for like the exact right way to do it. But the one line pitch on it is, and it's related to the movie in a way, thematically in a way,
all right.
to what we're talking about today. But the one line pitch is basically, it's about a modern day historian who discovers the journal, the diary of a colonial woman who claims to have slept with every founding father.
Oh, well, that's awesome. I like that.
So it's historicalized, or it's like fictionalized history.
Mm-hmm.
Today's movie we're talking about is fictionalized history, and I had a good time, imagining what the characters that we know and love as our founders, imagining them in a cartoonish version of themselves. But so that's coming up for me. And I watched this movie that we're going to talk about today recently, and I just thought like, oh wow, whoever wrote this clearly faced some of the challenges and had some of the fun that I got to have with Bastards of the Revolution in this movie. So that's what I've been up to. What about you? What have you been up to, man?
Not much, just doing too much. I've been working on this show double duty, as listeners kind of may have been hinted to, that I've been recording summer episodes while at the same time keeping up with the regular one, and it's a lot.
Yeah,
but it's fun, but it's a lot. Trying to keep up my writing too.
It's gonna pay off, man. It's gonna pay off.
We could hope. Someday. Somehow.
I promise.
It already is paying off, Pres. It already is. It's good.
I know.
I'm happy doing it. So it's paying off.
That's all that matters.
I'm not doing my old show. I'm doing this one. So it has paid off. So it's all good.
Good for you, man.
But yeah, no, I like that book. I love the ideas where you can find a place where you could bend some history or take something and twist it that is common. That's
kind of my theme. That's kind of what I like. I take something from real life and just imagine it a different way. Imagine it happening a different way, or In this case with Bastards, taking an actual historical timeline and not changing that. Like all the dates in Bastards line up. But I'm just including a character that I'm not even calling her fictional. It's just she's not in any of our history books. Maybe someone like that actually survived and we don't know, or not survived, but actually existed and we don't know about it.
Yeah.
You never know.
These are wildly different concepts, but it kind of reminds me, there's a friend I had a long time ago. He had a script I never got to read, but he told me, because we're not till it's done. And then I never didn't know him when it was done, but it was called a great title. I'm not a religious person, but this was a cool concept, but it was called The Final Testament. And it was about, there was a space exploration or something, maybe on the moon or something. And when they're there, they find on the surface or buried like a book, and it's like the continuation of the Old Testament, New Testament of the Bible. And there's another book, and it's like, what the hell is this? And because it was in outer space, and they're like, and it fits the writing styles and all that stuff fits with the original, like, and it's like, where did this come from? And that was all he sold me. I'm like, that kind of sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
But nay.
Have you heard of, this won't sidetrack us too much. Have you heard of the author Christopher Moore?
Maybe it's just because the name's kind of common sounding, but yeah. I don't.
He's awesome. He has a book that really inspired my style. I think I read it after I wrote Bastards, or at least had read it after I started writing Bastards. But someone recommended him to me because they said, like, you probably, based on Pigeon and Bender at the Bumper Region, my first two novels, they're like, based on that, you'd probably really enjoy Christopher Moore. And so his book, that what you just reminded me of, is it's the 2000th year, the anniversary of Jesus's birth. So like God wants to do something special. So he brings back to life Jesus's best friend to finally, and he's only bringing him back to life for a little bit, to have him write another chapter of the Bible, an anniversary chapter of the Bible.
Bonus feature.
A bonus feature, right. But the reason they didn't ask him to write it in the first place was that he's just a huge jerk.
Oh.
And he's like that friend at a party that, like, everyone's like, where he's entertaining, but he's not like a good guy.
Right.
You know, like everybody has that friend who's just like a jerk, but we love him anyway, but he's a jerk. So this guy, like the book is hilarious because it's him writing his experience as Jesus's like childhood friend who Jesus outgrows, but like he's there anyway because they have the foundation and none of the other disciples like him. But then the other half of the book is him now on earth 2,000 years later, like experiencing, it's like they have him hold up in a motel outside St. Louis, like with an angel, just to write the stuff, and then they'll kill him again. Like it's really funny. It's really funny. Anyway, I recommend that book. That's my book recommendation for the day until mine comes out. It's called, it's by Christopher Moore, and it's called Lamb. It's good.
Lamb. Okay.
Good.
Excellent. I just realized only you and Quentin Tarantino can use the phrase, when I was writing Bastards.
Yeah, you're right.
There you go.
You're right. And I do love his version. We spell it differently.
There.
I do love his version.
I do too.
But yeah. Anyway.
All right. So speaking of Bastards, we can get to Almost Heroes, directed by Christopher Guest, written by Mark Nutter, Thomas R. Wolfe, and Boyd Hale, starring Chris Farley, Matthew Perry, Bokeem Woodbine, Eugene Levy, Louis Arquette, Lisa Barbushia, and Kevin Dunn. It's about two bumbling explorers hoping to beat Lewis and Clark to the Pacific Ocean as they race across America's western frontier in the early 1800s. So, theme here today, throwing things into history, having some fun, changing around with what they know. So, this is one you brought and wanted to do, and I think you were like, oh, it's a stupid movie that I like, and I was like, hey, I like that movie too. So here we are.
This first disclaimer for your two regulars: if you haven't seen this movie, don't let the impressive cast list fool you. It's not great. like don't hear the names Christopher Guest, Eugene Levy, Chris Farley, and think like, what? But through the years, I have noticed with this that there is like a secret society of people who quote this willy-nilly.
Yeah.
For instance, years ago, I don't remember, is your show clean or not?
Because it's explicit. Okay,
I usually don't do a lot of cussing, but I'm about to quote the show. Like case in point, I was on a road trip for work years ago, way before kids, way before marriage, way before even my current career trajectory. We were on a road trip across America with this guy who was my friend. And at one point he tells it was me, I ate the sheep shit story.
No way.
I was like, dude, what? Like nobody knows that movie. And he was one of those guys who's just like, he's super funny person and king of movie quotes. A different time, this is when I was playing bass in my dad's band at church. And the woman who played drums she was not quite my parents' age, but she was much older than me. I mean, she was an adult. I was a kid. This movie came out when I was 18. So this was probably like
1998. Yeah.
I'm in my early 20s or something. I'm playing bass. And we were talking about stuff, and I played a riff, and she says out of nowhere, she goes, play that haunting air you played me this morning. And I was like, did you just quote Almost Heroes? and she was like, it's the best movie ever. And like for someone who was in her like probably upper 40s and I'm in my 20s, I was like, I can't believe that just happened.
Right, yeah.
Like that was amazing. But here I am in my early 40s quoting it often, so I can't complain. But no, I think it's one of those movies that I think it's a joy to watch. Chris Farley's last one, and that's sort of depressing in and of itself. But I'm amazed, truly, that it's not more memorable.
Well, I remember. Like,
did you see it in the theater? Let me ask you. Do you see?
I saw it. I rented it on VHS when it came out.
Okay.
And I remember just being like, this. It reminded me of what was like John Candy's last movie, Wagons East, where I was like, oh, that was it. That was the one with him and Richard Lewis. And I felt like this was that situation all over again. And I rented it with no expectations other than I want to see it. It's Chris Farley's last leading role. And I enjoyed it. Like I was like, this is way better than what I would have been led to. Like the reviews for this were garbage when it came out. I think it still sits at like a 5% on Rotten Tomatoes. But like I was like, this is actually, it's nothing great, but it's pretty funny. Enjoy it. It's like a swift 90 minutes. And if you like Chris Farley doing his thing, this movie has some gems and he really does carry it. I think a lot of the goodwill in this movie is Farley. But I haven't seen this movie since probably around the time it came out. And I was like, oh, I hope this is like young Brandon enjoyed it and old. And I enjoyed it again here. Like this is a harmless little movie. It's probably like a 2.5, maybe 3 if I'm kind out of 5. It's not like spectacular, but man, it didn't deserve the thrashing.
I mean, if I'm being honest, when I picture what it looks like on the page, it's solid. I mean, it really is. Like the gags are good. There are, I mean, just like I kind of alluded to, there are so many quotable lines. I mean, truly. And I was thinking about this when I was rewatching it before this, like, there are several characters, there are several roles that could have been legendary. I mean, Eugene Levy, the guy who plays, Eugene Levy plays Guy Fontenot, the guy who plays Hieronymus Pratt, the guy who's like, Bidwell, can you hear me? Like that old crusty guy. like obviously the sheep shit story guy, the guy who plays Hidalgo, the guy who plays Bidwell himself, like those are all the kind of roles I feel like that if you're somebody in Hollywood, you get that and you're like, I'm going to be in a cult classic. Like,
you know what this is? This is dodgeball. Like this is the kind of like comedic troupe that you do dodgeball did, where it's like, we've got our main, straight man, comic guy, a crazy antagonist like character, and these weird group of people together that you're gonna get chances to knock them dead. Take your line and run with it, and they actually kind of give them well-rounded little arcs of each guy. And now I know this movie got cut up after Farley died to be very Chris Farley focused. So a lot of it was supposed to be more ensemble-ish than it is, but it still works that way.
I agree.
Yeah.
I've got a hot take that may not be that hot a take.
Okay.
I think I say this with peace and love, with peace and love. I think Matthew Perry was miscast.
Oh no, 100%. It was, so this role they wanted what's his name? Hugh Laurie.
Oh.
The financiers, the studio said, who? We need somebody better than that.
Young, good looking, popular.
Yeah. Bill Murray said no, and Hugh Grant said got close, but ended up turning him down. And then Matthew Perry. And if you look at Matthew Perry, he's like doing a Hugh Grant in person. Like this is like, you could easily see Hugh Grant here. And it's almost like they're telling Matthew Perry, be like Hugh Grant. Be like Hugh Grant. Because it's very not Matthew Perry.
I just feel like,
but it's a lot of Hugh Grant's humor as told through Matthew Perry.
Yeah. And I do think Matthew Perry is willing to go to comedic places that Hugh Grant probably wouldn't go. But like, I also look at this through the eyes of where Matthew Perry was in his career. Like 98 was, from everything I've read, I'm sort of a closet Friends expert just because I grew up in
we know it.
Of Friends, and like the girls I dated in high school loved Friends, so I never missed an episode, that kind of stuff. And like this was a dark time for Matthew Perry. This was like in the heart of like prescription drug addiction, I believe, like, so I don't know how super stable he would have been, but it's like the easy other thing to imagine is like put David Spade in there where Matthew Perry is, and next thing you know, this thing is like ends the Tommy Boy Black Sheep trilogy. Like this becomes something totally different. And I can see why a studio would want someone like a Hugh Grant, like bigger than David Spade. But when it really came down to it, I just like, there was like zero Matthew Perry, Chris Farley chemistry. And I think that's sort of the crux of the problem.
Right, yeah.
Because Matthew Perry, it's not like he gives like a bad performance. It's just not like, it just doesn't feel like it fits with Matthew or with Chris Farley. Like you don't imagine that they called cut and those two guys ran off to a local bar to have fun. Like you just don't picture that.
I think Perry sticks to the script more and Farley is allowed to go to town. And I don't think that might be one of Matthew Perry's. He likes twisting the lines on the page rather than using them as a guideline and doing his thing. I think, I don't know that, but yeah. That's true. It's interesting who would have been here. Like Matthew Perry, this is when they're like, okay, what are we going to do with these Friends people? Who are going to make movie stars?
Right.
Matthew Perry will break out bigger with Whole 9 Yards a couple years after this. But at this time, they were pushing what LeBlanc was supposed to, like he had Lost in Space and that monkey baseball movie. And they're pushing him and Aniston. They were going to be the big ones.
Well, Jennifer Aniston proved over time that she was the big one.
Yeah. Right. But and they were Schwimmer had some stuff, but like Schwimmer was more interested in production stuff. Little did we know, rather he was using acting gigs to learn more about production things. yeah, Lisa Kudrow she had Romeo and Michelle, and then she was in the Analyze This movies. But this is when they were like, okay, when you're not filming Friends, we need you to become like movie stars.
Mm-hmm.
And like, who's gonna be the first? And that's funny because Courtney Cox was already doing movie stuff before.
She was
had
the movie star.
She had
Yeah.
Scream movies during this time as well. But yeah, this is one of Perry's first like jumping off. He had that one where, was it like he was after some girl, but he posed as being a gay guy, something 3 to Tango.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was one of his for early ones, but yeah, you need a straight man here for sure, but he's, I don't know, maybe a little too straight and not quite hitting the humor that his character needs to. Like it hits in some spots, but
there are good spots. There's no doubt there are good spots. But I have this, maybe it's another hot take theory, but I think Matthew Perry hit more because he was a charismatic, funny person, less of what Farley was, what most of the SNL folks like are by design, less of like, I can take something and make it funny by what I'm doing. Like people who had stand-up comedy experience certainly like kind of like know that of like, I know how to be funny the way, or I know how to make something funny because it's me. I know how to take like nothing and write something funny on a page. Like that kind of creation never struck me as where Matthew Perry's coming from. So he's doing a lot of stuff here. Like when he's looking in the telescope at Hidalgo's woman.
That's one of his best scenes.
Basically Chandler Bing though. Like, and like he knows how to do things his way. He knows how to read off the page, but he doesn't know how to play with it the way Farley I think does. Like the way most of these guys do. Yeah. Like Eugene Levy is awesome in this movie. Awesome in everything, but you're like, that this guy has fun. I mean,
Matthew Perry's in probably the John Cusack mold where you need to put Matthew Perry in there and let Matthew Perry the thing.
Right.
Like it's not that they don't have range, but when they are themselves, that range is incredible. When it's, you put like, I want Matthew Perry to go all Matthew Perry on this role. And it's usually got to be in present time and, that kind of comedy, things like that. But he here is a period, even a comedy. Yeah, not as strong suit, but I mean, it doesn't. I don't think it hampers the movie. Nonetheless, I think it still goes.
Well, and now it's like part of me is almost glad. I know this is going to contradict everything I just said about my hot take about Matthew Perry, which
there's a hot take on my hot take.
Right. But it's like, now I'm kind of glad it was Matthew Perry.
Yeah.
Because, like we said, he doesn't like do a bad job. It's just like the chemistry's not like perfect. But now it like, in retrospect, it makes it a Farley movie.
Right. Well, the one thing I'll give it is he never gives in to all the comedy going around him. He knows to stay straight the whole time. Whereas a lot of people will not give the floor or, well, you're being funny. Like the whole Batman Forever, Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey. And Tommy Lee Jones decides, I'm gonna amp it. It's like, that's not Two-Face, man. Like you're
right. It's not what the role needs.
He's sitting there getting amped up by Jim Carrey rather than holding firm as to his character is. So I'm not really understanding his part in that. So that's kind of where it could go. But Matthew Perry plays his character as his character, even though him and Farley aren't really in the same movies per se, but Farley knows how to play with him. I think he's, I don't know, it's interesting. Farley, I feel like this would be these guys' only adventure at the end rather than starting more adventures. Like, it's like, all right,
well, I have a little acting experience. Like in college for a hot second, I was an acting major and I really enjoyed it. I think that's a reason why I did it for like, I think 2 semesters or something. But I've been on both sides of that before. There have been times when I've really stepped outside my comfort zone when I shouldn't have. tried to take a character somewhere that it didn't need to go, but strictly because someone that I was on stage with was delivering just like the highest energy, greatest interpretation of a character, and it inspires you to try something. And it's so hard, like you said with the Tommy Lee Jones example, so hard to resist that pressure when you're in a room with Jim Carrey. Like, I mean, a quintessential example of the right way doing it is Jeff Daniels and Jim Carrey and Dumb and Dumber. Like, when you hear them talk about their relationship, Jeff Daniels just like, I could never be Jim Carrey. I didn't want to be. Yeah. I just got there in my hairy outfit and I opened the door and let Jim walk through, and I just followed him through, you know. And I think that's really hard to do as an actor, like stake your claim to who your character is, and then not let yourself get so easy to be on stage and be energized by someone else's performance, and then that accidentally makes you do too much with your own. I'm proud to say I think I was on the other end of it once or twice, and that's like always a good feeling when you feel like you're like steering the boat, you know. But it doesn't make the performance or the movie or the play or whatever, it doesn't make it better if you're an actor that is so being driven by the energy of someone else's performance, you know. So I give it to Matthew Perry here. Like, yeah, it does not feel like that he is trying to do too much with his role because of Chris Farley, which would be so easy to do. The guy's like an explosion on screen, you know, in the best way possible. So for that, I will say, you know, and I've got nothing but like love and respect for Matthew Perry. I feel like the reason the movie didn't get big was just because those guys don't go together. Like, you know, like no one pictures them in the same same mode, you know?
And the straight man thing, I mean, Bud Abbott is a legend for a reason. It's not because we were laughing at his crazy antics. It was the way he sat there with Costello and was able to maintain and pull those things along. The humor in this one, apparently Steve Odekirk helped with the script early on.
Interesting.
And he was a guy who did a lot of writing for Jim Carrey early on, as we were mentioning just now. But I love one of his movies called Kung Pao Enter the Fist. If you ever saw that one.
Yeah.
Where he inserted himself into a kung fu movie, a couple kung fu movies he edited and like redubbed everything and added some CG effects here and there.
Interesting. Okay.
It's pretty funny. And then he also did those Thumb Wars or Thumb movies like Thumbtanic, Thumb Wars, where he would have like Star Wars as played by the thumb, and they talk.
I remember those.
That's what he was from. But he had touched this early on. He's not credited at all, but apparently in the first early iterations he was involved. And of course Christopher Guest, which the producer of this said, he goes, well, I guess I get to go down as making Christopher Guest's worst film. But he was between Waiting for Guffman and Best in Show for this. So this was in between those.
Wow.
Kind of interesting.
What a departure.
Yeah. Before that's, you know, he did Waiting for Guffman, and he's like, I'll do a traditional thing, and then go right back to just making fake documentaries, which bread and butter.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a hypothetical question.
Okay.
I'm going to have some fun with it here. Let's say ring, ring, Brandon Peters' phone rings, and you look down and the caller ID says Warner Brothers Pictures.
Okay.
And you're like, oh God, these guys, they're always calling me. Whatever. So
WB, why bother? Okay.
Right. And so you answer and you're like, what? And they're like, hey, remember the movie Almost Heroes? And you're like, yeah. They're like, well, we love your podcast. We love everything you do. We've decided to give you a shot. Can you cast the remake for us and make the movie?
Oh, geez.
So we'll start simple, or maybe not so simple, but we have two leading men. We have, we have Leslie Edwards. We have Bartholomew Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Who do we put modern day in there? You can't choose from all time. This is happening today.
Oh, let's see here. So who would go good together? Who's our big physical comedian
I know.
are not.
It's not like it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead.
You know what you could do the easy thing of the gender swap.
Oh,
And
interesting.
you could do it with Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy. Easy. That's an easy answer. Right
That
there.
is a good easy answer. Yeah.
If I was to do it with males again, I would do.
Yeah, go ahead.
You go ahead. I'm still thinking. I've got one. I need the other.
It's a different like age demographic.
Mm-hmm.
But if you could find a way to pull Will Ferrell, John C. Reilly into those somehow.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like you could have something.
Yeah. Could. I was thinking a little younger.
Right. That's why I was like, the age is a little different.
So for the Edwards role,
mm-hmm.
the Matthew Perry one, I'm thinking Zac Efron.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
There we go.
No, so seriously, Zac Efron.
He's really good at comedy. Like I don't think people realize he's really good at like straight man with a little bit of crazy comedy.
Yeah.
You could have Danny McBride. Danny McBride could play the Chris Farley role in his own way.
Danny McBride is an A+ pull. I feel like that one would be. Yeah.
There we go. Danny McBride, Zac Efron, Almost Heroes remake.
That's pretty good.
There we go.
And now we don't have to go just through every side character, but I mean, Fontenot, the Eugene Levy character, feels like an obvious grab for someone solid who wants to try a French accent out. I mean, I don't have anybody in mind, but it's like,
yeah.
You could have somebody in there. I mean, you could almost go someone a little older there with like, you feel like Paul Rudd would have so much fun with that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, just like going overboard there.
This is true.
I mean, I feel like Paul Rudd's like sort of hot right now. So you could also give him like, I don't know. Anyway, that always occurs to me with these movies that I mean, Warner Brothers hasn't even updated this. It's only available in standard definition. It's like there's no HD version. It's like if someone like us who was like a high school kid in the 90s and just like from that era of Chris Farley love and comedy is a movie exec now, says, you know what is a hidden sleeper gem of a script? Like, what could we redo here? It's like you've got to feel like somebody out there could probably convince. You know
what we could do right the second time around?
Right, exactly. So I like to think about that kind of stuff.
No, I get you. Yeah, it's interesting. Hidalgo, I would 100% Michael Pena for.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Second time
a Hollywood story, if I may. Michael Pena was in a rock band that my rock band shared a rehearsal studio with. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So every time we'd go, like we'd work it out with the other band. When are you gonna be in the studio?
Okay.
And we'd find out whenever they were gonna be there, and we'd schedule our time in there. Like, and the nice thing is you didn't ever have to pack up your stuff and move it. You could just leave it under lock and key in the studio. So every time we went to go practice, which was like probably 5 times a week or something, you'd show up. And at that point, the only thing Michael Pena had really done was he was in Crash.
Yeah, because that was his breakout, right? Yeah, when I first moved out there, Crash was getting all like it had just started like it's like small city or couple limited city screening in LA. Like I think the week I moved there open, everybody wouldn't shut the fuck up about Crash.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So
They all loved it till it won an Oscar. And now it's like the most like racist movie now, like all sorts of like crap, but people would not stop talking about it.
I saw the whole thing. I don't even remember now.
I worked on the DVD for it. Well, it was one because we had Lionsgate as one of my clients, so we were actually happy at my work when it won Best Picture because it's like, holy shit, the little studio fucking did it, and now that movie is reviled beyond belief. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I have not seen it recently. Maybe it's worth a revisit. But yeah, when I had met Michael Pena, he was right off Crash, and like we didn't really know each other. He was the drummer in that band, and I don't think he stayed in that band for very long. What was that band called? That band was called I got it, Nico Vega. That's not someone's name. That was the name of the band, Nico Vega. And they got signed to MySpace Records.
Oh,
and that was a thing.
That was a thing, yeah.
Yep. But they also didn't. I don't think he stayed with them very long. Like I don't think he was with them by the time they got signed. But friendly guy, and I always thought that if I called him up, I could be like, hey man, I was in the Bo Dukes, you were in Nico Vega. Why don't you play Hidalgo in the reboot of my movie from 1998?
Almost Heroes. There you go. Yeah. Oh man, that's crazy. Yeah, because he was like one of the posters for Crash too. He was like, oh yeah, he's like, oh my gosh, yeah, this is Breakout. Man, that's crazy.
So let me ask you this about Almost Heroes to bring it back there. I have never done my research on the movie. Do you know how Farley's death? Because he died before they were done filming, I think.
No, they were finished with it. It got
I didn't know.
So it was supposed to come out in 1997, and then there was a studio merger between the Turner Company that made this and Warner Brothers. So Warner Brothers soaked it up and pushed the release of it to 1998. In the time that happened, Chris Farley died. And so and then they recut the film after he died to focus more to him. So they cut as much, like a lot of the supporting characters roles, and then some of Matthew Perry's. Like Parker Posey was in this movie at the beginning. She played Matthew Perry's sweetheart at the beginning of the movie that he leaves to go on the journey. And that was cut, which makes sense. Parker Posey's in all Christopher Guest movies, so makes sense you throw her here.
She's amazing though.
That's
now I want to see the Christopher Guest cut.
Well, and it's funny too because at the time she was a hot item. I don't think Hollywood really knew much to do with her, but her name was popping up because she was in a lot of indie. She was like the girl that was in all the indie films that you saw, and there was like articles about her, and like she was known like because who's this girl who's always she's in like multiple films at Sundance every year. Why isn't she in bigger movies? And then she'd wind up being in bigger movies later on, but nothing. I mean, Scream 3 she was in, and she was the best part of Scream 3. She got Superman Returns. Like they started trying to fit her into things. But
Superman Returns feels like it was at the end of her streak.
Yeah, that was like, here, and then nobody cared about Superman.
But she's always a remarkable role in the Christopher Guest movies, A Mighty Wind, Best in Show, like that kind of stuff. She's always standout, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, no, I love Parker Posey. She's like, if there's someone who hasn't been in enough stuff, I mean, she's in a lot of stuff, but she should have been like an A-lister big time, like all the time, like 100%. And she's still around. She just did that Lost in Space TV show. Still doing things. But
she was cut from Almost Heroes. That's BS.
And apparently they reshot the ending a bit, and Bokeem Woodbine wasn't available for the ending that is in the film, so he disappears in this movie and doesn't show up at the end. But he wasn't available to come back, and so that ending had to be reshot. But yeah, no, it also. Upon release, Siskel and Ebert were blocked from reviewing this movie.
Why?
This and Dirty Work. Dirty Work's his last screen appearance. He's got a supporting role in that, and that came out a couple months after this. But Siskel was notably very nasty about Chris Farley's movies. And the family and studio felt it best if he just sit this one the fuck out. So they blocked Ebert as well, so it wouldn't even come up on their show.
Wow.
This and Dirty Work. And that's probably part 2 of why this movie probably doesn't have a good reputation. Like, we loved Tommy Boy and that stuff back then, but it was, and like the Sandler movies were not, the adults didn't understand at the time, basically. Yeah. And the kids were going to the movies and making them hits and these people stars, and we wanted to see them. And it was kind of a generational. And so Tommy Boy is a stone cold classic, but which I showed to my children recently, and they did not. It's weird because they're like, well, we're supposed to laugh because he's fat. That's kind of mean. We're like, oh my gosh, well, we are. That's true, but the guy played into it. He lived for that.
Well, my wife just rewatched Billy Madison for some reason. I have no clue why. Maybe she was just channel surfing his on or whatever. But she was like, I have not seen that movie in 20 years. And oh my God, Adam Sandler goes full like handicap person.
Yeah.
Like it is not just, oh, I'm gonna be a funny dumb guy. You start to squirm. He's like making fun of really less capable people.
Yeah.
Like this is like but to your point, those like when we were all in high school, that run of Saturday Night Live cast, your Adam Sandler's, your Chris Farley,
Mike Myers,
Mike Myers, like those guys were gods.
Yeah.
Like for me, I mean, like Wayne's World, I think came out when I was in 5th grade. So that was a little before that.
Wayne's World was like one of my favorite comedies ever too. I was like, oh my gosh.
When I saw that, I literally thought it was the funniest thing anyone had ever created since the time. I mean, I was 10 and I was just like, this is it. This is the peak. It will never get better.
Mike Myers is a genius. Yeah, I know.
Dana Carvey, man.
But yeah, there was that late 80s to like even like early 2000s was like just stone cold great cast for Saturday Night Live. And even like I've always been a long time Saturday Night Live. I still watch Saturday Night Live, and it's just funny to always hear the same shit said about it every time. There's like, because when the time we're talking about, well, it was better when it was Aykroyd and Murray and Chevy and all that. It was better then. And then, oh no, it was better when it was Mike Myers and Kevin Nealon and Sandler. Right. Oh no, it was better when it was Will Ferrell and during those times they were saying the others were better. So it's a generational thing, and it's aimed at younger kids. It's newer comedy coming up that we're not used to yet.
Yeah.
And there are lulls. There are times where it's not the greatest, but I mean, as long as a couple sketches hit for me, that's great. Like they didn't all hit back then. It wasn't gems every time. They boned out on a few. And it's funny, when I went my senior year of high school, and this is all relevant because Chris Farley was a member of Saturday Night Live. Eugene Levy was a member of SCTV, which was a Canadian version of Saturday Night Live. So we're all relevant here. And we went to the NBC studios. This was summer of 2000. Took a tour of 30 Rock, and they showed us a picture before the studio to enter the studio of Saturday Night Live. There's a big frame picture of the original cast and a big frame picture of the current cast. And they're like, the woman goes, so easy question, which one's the higher rated cast of these two? And everybody's like, oh, the original one. They're like, nope, current one, way higher. Like the ratings are like double. Like everybody's like, what?
Yeah.
And they're like, it's a misnomer that everybody liked the original the best. Oh, but they weren't watching it. They're watching this one now. So that's always a.
Well, I know this isn't about SNL, so I won't go full SNL here, but I did see an interesting interview that if you look it up, it's Howard Stern asking David Spade and Dana Carvey to do their dream SNL cast in only 5 people from all eras. And the interesting thing about it was they said, well, they were like, we know Lorne personally, we know his style. Lorne picks types. He doesn't want to put all impressionists in one cast. Right? Like your Bill Haders, your Dana Carveys are there because they do the voices and they do the impressions. Like he doesn't want a cast full of Bill Haders and Dana Carveys. He wants one Bill Hader, Dana Carvey.
Well, you have to have your Sudeikis guys that are the lead males and everything. Yeah.
Right. You've got your like Dan Aykroyd, Jason Sudeikis guys who are like good looking, nice hairs, like sort of geniuses with comedy. You've got your Bill Murray, Will Ferrell guys who are like the goofball type, but like always deliver. You've got your John Belushi, your Chris Farley guy, who's like the heavy goofball guy. But they all sort of agreed that Farley, was sort of an entity of his own. Like Dana Carvey tells this funny story about how he's sitting next to Chris Farley at some reunion that they all did, and they're watching a John Belushi clip. And of course, John Belushi, John Candy, these guys are like Chris Farley's idols.
Yeah.
But Dana was like, I leaned over to him and I kind of was like, you realize that he's like, I think you're better than these guys. He's like, I think you really nailed it. Like you own it in a different way. You bring a different character to different things. And so knowing that some of his peers sort of thought that way about him. And when you go back and see pictures, like not pictures, when you see clips of him socially, like it's been going around online lately when Cindy Crawford had dinner with David Spade, Chris Farley, and Adam Sandler. Have you seen that? It's funny because it's just the 4 of them out getting interviewed by Cindy Crawford.
Yeah.
And they're just themselves. And it becomes obvious that Chris Farley is like a black hole of comedic energy.
Yeah.
Like everything, like he's at the center of it. He's like, his brain is working so fast. Maybe it's because of a substance, not sure, but his brain is working so fast and is working like overtime, like that you almost can't keep up with his quips, his one-liners. He's like a Robin Williams a little bit in that sense.
Right. Yeah. No.
But like David Spade and Adam Sandler like could barely breathe. They're laughing so hard. Like Cindy Crawford is highly entertained. Like it was this thing where now when I see a role like something like Almost Heroes, like you're kind of like, I absolutely see how this guy took a script just to bring it all the way back to where we're talking about Almost Heroes.
Yeah.
Like you can see where this guy took a script and just said like, I understand the assignment and I'm going all in.
And everyone, we're about to do a take. Be prepared.
Right. And you if you watch the movie with that mindset, it's just like, this must have been so fun to be on screen for, or to be on a set for. It's so fun now to watch it and see this guy doing his thing.
Right.
So I think that's why I'm attracted to the movie.
Right. No, and I love like going through some of the things I love about him in this movie is like right from the opening when he's like, this woman comes and accosts him like horrifically about like what she wants him to like burn in hell. He's like, Christ, lady, there's this is like, way to switch it off and sell it. And when he gets hung, right before he gets hung, and he's like, I want you to all like kiss my buttocks.
I know.
And then he's just hanging like, like it's great.
Yeah. When he tastes the whiskey, when Aaron Burr like gives him the whiskey bottle and he's like, I'm not talking about getting blind drunk, man. I'm just saying a taste. And Chris Farley's like, then a taste it shall be. And he takes the drink and you see him, do the whole like, and then he grabs the bottle and he's like, get your own damn bottle. It's like, so good.
And he's like, when Matthew Perry's like, I'm going to take the men in for a drink. You're going to go over there and do that because we know how you are. And it's just his face is like, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, right. Yes, we do.
Yes,
know how I get. Yeah.
Like, all right. Yeah. Yeah. And then when he's teaching him the alphabet, he's like A, he's like lowercase a, he's like,
yeah.
Like it's brilliant.
No more for today.
Just and the thing I always remember from this movie And one of my favorite things, I died laughing when I first saw it, is when he has to go on the quest to find the bird's egg.
So
And
I was waiting for us to get to this part because the eagle's egg is by far the pinnacle moment of Chris Farley in this movie.
It is.
It is so good. Yeah,
Yeah,
getting the eagle egg is
he climbs up the tree and he gets to the nest, and the eagle that makes the sound, and his reaction, his face is, and I love that not only he has to do this multiple times, they use the same sound effect, the same video clip, even when he finds it in a different area. It's genius.
I know that is Christopher Guest rearing his head, because that, like we were talking about the sound clip and the repeated just visual.
It's the same visual of the eagle. It's the same.
It does not get better than that.
And then when he gets back and she's like, "Oh, I just needed the shell."
Yeah,
because he tempted him, like he ate one of the eggs because he was too hungry. Had to get another. Like, that sequence, it's hilarious. Like, what asshole was sitting through this movie and go, "Okay, it's got that scene that cracked me the fuck up. This ain't that bad." Like, what humor's different for everybody, and I don't know. These weren't the kind of movies that critically were enjoying back then. Like, like Jim Carrey was a bit wild for them. It was a whole nother, like, comedy was changing a bit for its times, and it's usually not as well, like, the audience is going to get it first before any person currently writing understands what the humor is. And Farley's there. They didn't like those frat boys coming out of the SNL. Like, Sandler was reviled, like, still reviled. I'm like, Sandler's he just makes his movies, and he's got fans. And he's a nice guy. Like, let him fucking.
He's a good guy, and I would say he's reviled in certain circles, but I mean, he's still, like, he's got his deal with Netflix. Like, he's not.
And his movies are of their most watched movies.
Are they really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, that's Adam Sandler. I'm serious. I know that he steered away from the Billy Madisons, the Happy Gilmores, which are all like our favorites. But when you look at something like Just Go With It, which is your run-of-the-mill, thing. But when you look at it on the page, like when you take everything away and you imagine the script, you're like, this is clever. Like, I understand where, and the same with Murder Mystery. And I understand they're like making the sequel to Murder Mystery right now. Like, I'm here for it. Like, I did meet him one other time also, and he's just like you said. He's a guy who leaves a good impression that he's a regular guy. He's doing his thing, and sure, he's a little crazy sometimes. My grandpa didn't like Happy Gilmore. Whatever. it wasn't for my grandpa, So.
Yeah. Well, Happy Gilmore is the one that convinced my dad. Like, okay, maybe this guy is pretty funny. So he would see his other movies as well. But yeah, these SNL guys, this movie, like, it's got the Farley stuff you want. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, it's got funny stuff on it, like the straw sex dolls that are in this movie. Like, that's some funny stuff.
And if I may, we were talking about Hakeem Woodbine. One of the most quotable lines, I feel like, is his when Matthew Perry is whining about his bath not being hot enough out in the wilderness. And Hakeem Woodbine goes, "I just finished washing my privates in the icy river."
Yes.
Matthew Perry doesn't even acknowledge it. He goes, "I think I'll wear my cream colored robe tonight," or whatever. It's like, Hakeem Woodbine has several of those lines in this movie. So
Hakeem Woodbine, who's either a time traveler or a vampire, because he looks in this movie like he does now. Right,
exactly. The guy has not aged one bit. No, that's so. I know we're getting to time here, so I'm just gonna say, if you're listening to this, Almost Heroes, it will be a totally guilt-free evening of fine entertainment for you, and watch
historical fun.
Historical fun. Then, of course, on April 5th, go out and buy Bastards of the Revolution. You know, if this has whet your palate for historical fun, then follow it up with a cozy read. That's
Yeah.
my advice.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Yeah, if you are looking for it, it is available on Hoopla. If you have a library card, you can have a Hoopla account. You can watch it for free.
And it is currently in standard definition, available for $9.99 on Amazon. But I will do one more plug. Don't forget to catch my next appearance on the Brandon Peters show.
No.
Yep, when we talk the Muppet Family Christmas special, not a traditional movie, but a television special from the 80s. That is another one of my favorites. Look for that, sometime around the holidays, either this year or holidays of 2023, whatever Brandon decides to call me. We'll just see. But I called my shot last time. I'm calling my shot.
All right. Noting it down. I won't forget. I tend to not forget these things. All right. But yeah, so that, yeah, definitely. I like it. Granted, we're not talking about the jerk that no one noticed movie. It's Almost Heroes. It's fun. Check it out. Now we move on to what else? This is where we just talk about anything else we've been taking in lately that isn't Almost Heroes, something we read, wrote, put out in the world, watched. I don't know. Pres, what else?
I went to the movies the other night and I saw the movie Moonfall.
Oh, okay.
Have you seen it?
I have not. I will eventually check it out, but yeah, it looks ridiculous in a good way, but
I don't even know, man. I don't know if it's in a good way.
Okay.
It's rough. I saw that recently, and yeah, it's got all the stuff, like all the cliche stuff to be well, okay, let me just put it this way. It's got all the cliche stuff to be an adventure space movie. It's like one part Armageddon and one part Contact. Remember that?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It really is just like a kind of the baby of those two movies. A little strange. I don't know how they got Halle Berry.
Because she does crazy shit like that. She likes doing those.
Does she?
I don't know. Sometimes it works for her. But no, I've heard it's lesser Roland Emmerich, but
okay. Yeah, that it's I don't know, man. There were so many weird moments. I went there with my friend who's also my literary agent, so we like to talk about story and just like how, and we both left just kind of like laughing about every ridiculously cliche moment it was. What they don't tell you, I don't know if you know this, but what they don't tell you in the trailer is that, I mean, the trailer makes it seem like a disaster movie, but what they don't tell you is that it's actually an aliens movie, like an alien encounter movie. And I think if I had set my expectation going into that, I think I probably would have had a little more fun, because when they finally got around to the alien thing, I was like, wait, like, you have to be kidding me. I thought we were seeing kind of like an interstellar version of Volcano or Twister. I thought it was like a disaster movie, but no.
That's what he makes, yeah. Gotcha. Wow. Moonfall.
What about you? What have you seen?
I'm gonna go something I watched last night on HBO Max, which I swear, folks, I'm not sponsored by HBO Max. Just happens to come up. Kimmy. It's Steven Soderbergh's new movie with Zoe Kravitz. And it is in the genre of pictures that would include stuff like Rear Window, Blowout, Blow Up, The Conversation. It's about a woman who works from home, and she is an IT person for Kimmy is basically Alexa. And she works the errors on there. So when people say something that doesn't work right, she fixes the code to make it know something it didn't before. And she gets a piece of audio, because it'll have like the clip of someone telling it to play something and it's not playing it. Because there's a girl, like, she goes, "Oh, play Me by Taylor Swift." now playing your playlist of blah blah. Like, no, play me by playing your playlist. So she has to fix it to say that. Well, she gets an audio clip of what she thinks she hears is a murder happening. But the thing is, she's also afraid to leave home because of COVID, and she's also had an assault happen to her before too. So she's really stuck in her apartment, and
it's triggered.
Huh? Yeah, and she wants
gets triggered.
Yeah, and she wants this. She's told by one of her higher ups to just delete it and move on, and she wants to know more, and because she wants to help because she's been abused before. So she digs and it becomes this conspiracy theory, like conspiracy type thriller, and it's really pretty good. And Soderbergh, so he knows how to handle that stuff. So it's a really cool movie.
I'm intrigued.
And it's only it's a swift 90 minutes on HBO Max. And he made that one last year I liked with Benicio del Toro and
The Last Jedi.
Yeah. What was it? No Sudden Move or something like that. Him and Don Cheadle.
Yeah, that rings a bell. Yeah,
that was a pretty cool one. But that guy was supposed to retire like 15 years ago, and he keeps making good films. So I'm all for retirement Soderbergh. But yeah, Kimmy's really cool. And also before we go, I wanted to ask you where you're at with the Jackal convention that you're.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Saturday of the Jackal.
Saturday of the Jackal, right? Yes.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. So look, mark my words, and my wife is in the next room, and I hope she can overhear me say this. But this summer is going to be the first annual Day of the Jackal fan convention. one Saturday of the year, where I'll host the first one over here in my garage through that door over there. And of course, Brandy, you're invited. I don't just want fans of Day of the Jackal there. I need the media there, and you check both the boxes. And so it's called Saturday of the Jackal, and we're gonna have
pictures with me are $1.
Yeah, no, I'll let
once hosted podcast episode about Day of the Jackal.
Right, and there'll be cosplay there. There will be if I can zoom in someone who is in the movie, that'll be like
there'll be a panel. Yeah, there you go.
There'll be a panel. There'll be a photo op. Like I'm gonna whip up a photo op that's Day of the Jackal themed, and maybe my wife is really good with her crickets, so maybe a souvenir T-shirt.
There we go. Awesome. Saturday of the Jackal.
So that maybe that's something you can share with your followers on social.
Oh, yeah.
Like
we'll cover it.
We're doing it.
We will cover it. It's funny. It's when you're like telling me about it, like, oh, the name should be. I was trying to think of I was like Assassination Con. You're like, dude, Saturday of the Jackal. I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. Yeah. It works for any day of the week they want to have it. Really.
No, you're right. No, absolutely.
So,
and when you say they, you mean we that we want to have it, right?
Any day, yeah. Any day we want to have it, yes. Yes. Oh, yeah.
So anyone listening, if you wanna go to Saturday of the Jackal, you just email one of us, and we'll keep it.
We'll keep you in the loop. We'll tell you about Saturday of the Jackal. Hotel accommodations done by yourself.
Right. There's a Holiday Inn Express over here.
Something like that. Yeah. Got plenty of
them.
Don't
tell anyone, but I've put stuff in their dumpster before that doesn't fit in our trash can. So
you wouldn't be the first.
Cool.
All right. Well, that'll do, Pres. Thanks for visiting again and making good on your promise to do Almost Heroes. Let people know where you can keep up with you and plug your book once again.
Yeah. So like I said, April 5th, Bastards of the Revolution hits the world. Follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Pres Maxson. That's at PresMaxson, or find me on Facebook under Pres Maxson author. And can't wait to hear from anybody who has made it this far in the episode and is interested in Saturday of the Jackal or wants to talk Almost Heroes. I'll talk with you all day long about it.
Saturday of the Jack. All right. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Brandon4KUHD, written word at WhySoBlue.com. There's more from the Brandon Peters Show this week. But until then, stay film. positive.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at brandonpetershow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at brandonpetershow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.